Schedule got thrown off a bit today. They're doing some spraying around and stuff, so I didn't. I got out and got my son a little bit later in the afternoon, but I had other things I was gonna do. I'll do them tomorrow. Um, uh, you know, best thing to do today, while the berries still cling to the vine. Don't really have any plans that you're attached to. Attachment is Detachment is not wanting to manipulate to feel powerful. You know, as far as having plans, you got to get up and put flex seal around the leak in the roof, that kind of stuff. So, you got to get up and water the plants. You got to get up and do things. So that's not attachment. That's just responsibility and understanding what you have to do. If you desire a woman sexually and she doesn't desire you, detachment, right? If there's something you want and you desire it, detach. It's not necessary. If there's something you need and you need to do it, well then, hopefully everything. But right now, it's hard for us to get our needs taken care of and accomplished because of all the selfish, insane people that are, dealing with attachment. So, I'm the guy who's connects to the one who's like the Buddha and Confucius and the Krishna and so forth. So, I got this covered, and I've already corrected most of the linguistics with the technology and stuff. Krishnamurti did a lot of it before me, but he was dealing with a different group, and he didn't have quantum computing, and I do. If they've taken people like Krishnamurti and Sun Yat-sen and stuff and plugged them into computers to keep people docile, that makes sense with the philosophies that were passed on, and because of the nature of those human beings. They would not, they're like me, make this as loving as humanly possible. But our main concern and our main focus is the truth of our existence, honoring the truth of our existence and the natural laws to maintain our existence, and protecting innocent children, and protecting the environment so the innocence of children can be maintained through faithful love. And that's our, we don't, that whole thing I saw this commercial, we're betting on people. Should have wagered on Pascal, should have wagered on Pascal. Betting on people, if you're betting on people about data centers, then you're wagering that other people have the same brain chemical addictions that you do, which they do. But that's irrelevant now. We have quantum computing, and natural laws mandate that you can't do what you want to deny us all our needs. So, go screw yourself, you little fucking bastard. I spent 9 or so years, when did I go on Facebook? I don't remember, but I spent a long ass time with those assholes trying to get them to stand up and do the right thing and be like Father Abraham and Mother Sarah, and they basically, we expect you to go out, to die from chemical poisoning from our business partners. I'm like, yeah, I can understand. I mean, I get it. I see how sick you are. I understand how people when they're, a fool and his money are soon departed, and world's first profession is prostitution. And people, what the problem isn't racism, the problem isn't sexism, the problem is egotism, selfishness and egotism. And you'll find when people are egotistical and selfish and feel powerful when they manipulate, that they'll group together. They'll get together at the big stadiums and say one world, one love, and it has nothing to do with love. It has to do with them being the center of attention and everybody paying attention to them because that's what they want, regardless of what the rest of us need. Okay, and as it so happens, I happen to be the Messiah. And if you can't live in a world where I'm the Messiah and you have to obey the rules of Jews rule in peace because they obey and honor the natural laws through the truth of creation to eternally love one another faithfully through holy covenants. Through the prayers of the loving family in Virginia, they don't give a shit. Little Miss Mildred, that's my grandma's name, Jeter, she doesn't care what you want. All she cares about is what her children need, and she's sick of living in Washington, D.C., and her kids getting hit by cars just trying to get home from school or go outside to play. And then you get so stressed you smoke cigarettes all the time to alleviate the stress, because your body just constantly, it's the only thing that gives you any source of relaxation, and it kills you. And driving cars and racing cars to get that adrenaline out and get all that stress from being extorted and exploited and abused all week long, and self-destructive behaviors that people inherit to try to survive the bad brain activity of shit rolls downhill, right? I went yesterday and I checked on the thing because they did the new Sandlot movie, and I've always had an affection for, because he reminds me of my Patrick, a young man named Mike Vitar. Okay, he's a firefighter in California now, like Eddie Chavez. And Mike was the one they sexually desired to get roles and be the lead, and he was the most sexual desirable in Hollywood, and he got started in Disney at a very young age. And you're fortunate if you're the character actor that's not sexually desirable but funny and charming and funny. Forever. You make weenies out of your mom's toe jam. You don't have to be sexually exploited to be the top role and get all the best lines. You're fortunate if you just get to be comic relief for the funny one that's not sexually, the one that they don't want to have sex with. Right? Yeah. There are a lot of young men in Hollywood that knows what it's like to be that one girl that everybody wants to have sex with and will do anything to have sex with her. And it's really hard on the kid. And he left, he went to become a firefighter to get away from the casting couch bullshit like my dad did. And then when you run into somebody that reminds you of the shit that aggressive, that you want to beat the shit out of them, So, you might have done something, it might have not even been what was actually happening. It was just the PTSD made you feel it, and you just felt total rage, and you just wanted to stop them from doing that to children. And I'm like, I get you, Mike. I understand. And there's nothing your own parents can do about it. Your parents can show up in the movie, show up at the thing, and these people are so manipulative, which people that are easily seduced by their own egos. Your own parents can't do anything about it. They can't, it's like I told you when I talked to Will Smith and Jada and Prairie, it's your kids go to school with Victor Maitland, and there's not a fucking thing you can do about it. And if you try to do something about it, they'll kill you and make it look like an act of God. Like when the Rockefellers were following my Facebook page, and Natalie looked at it, and I sit there and said, look, your dad's somebody important. The Rockefeller, just after a Will Smith thing allegedly friended me and then didn't, and now I got a Rockefeller following my Facebook page. So I was trying to explain to Natalie, this is really something that's quite serious, that the assholes in government that manipulate us and abuse us and can do just about anything they think they want to do us, know who your father is, right? Like the one lady at the library said, yes, they know who Andy Samberg, they know who your father is, right? And she's sitting there and she goes, but does Andy Samberg know you are? And I try to explain to her, Natalie, you do know the Rockefellers could give Andy Samberg rectal cancer and make it look like an act of God, okay? You understand how manipulative these people that perceive themselves as powerful are, and still think they're, they've turned themselves into what they think they're as gods, because they can clone and they can get people to agree to contracts and to money and to fight over money, and then have the top technology to outmaneuver you and to kill you and clone themselves and keep killing you and cloning themselves, so they can always be in power as they see it. So this is the most heinous and disgusting time in the history of human beings. And these delusions of power among these sick and disgusting manipulative people. We have quantum computing. Quantum computing's main objective, because of me, sitting there at Lopez Road, reveal my enemies to me and make this as loving as humanly possible, and all the stuff that they did with me. And I'm the restoration of the Gospels. I'm the redeemer of the Messiahs. I am the focus of faith and infinite glory, the origin of all things, the natural laws required for us to love one another and stay alive through obeying these laws, through holy covenants of honoring each other's gift of life and being as respectful and empathetic and beautiful as human beings can be, to one another and honor the laws of nature given to us by the glory of God to maintain our life through loving one another. So, you're dealing with a very unique individual who's the focal point of all faithful communications and the standard of all manhood to protect womanhood and childhood in the entire world right now. Because apparently they've taken the ones like Judah Krishnamurti and Sun Yat-sen and stuff like that in the East and other places. They knew from the genetics and the regimented killing off breeding if they crossbred, having the ones that were my friends and like me in prayer eternally, who we connect in prayer because we're the focal points of our people, to try to help them not be tribal, secular, and insular, but understand there's but one source of our existence, the natural, and so forth. So it's me, and I had to be the guy, and I, much to the chagrin of my kids and my wife's too. Yeah, why can't you just join the group and let's be part of the Temple Sutton Illuminati and have mind-blowing sex with young people and get all the right stuff and all the right healthy places to live, so we can live and get stem cell research and cloning research and live longer and have more mind-blowing sex, and I really did let down my wives in that regard. Why won't you get into the club and join them and be like them, and you could be on the down low because no one knows who you are, so you could, and you're so attractive and athletic, and you wouldn't have to be like that pathetic puppet master that ends up president, who's not nearly as athletic, intelligent, or charismatic as you, not nearly as good of an athlete, not nearly as good in the bedroom when he's healthy and not being abused by all the jealous scientists and all the jealous mercenaries and assassins that know you could kill them in a New York minute once because of the chi that runs through my body. And I earned it because I'm the greatest good shepherd. But what I was trying to tell my wives and my kids, if I become like them, all the abilities for nature and the laws of nature to focus through me to get us all balanced, so we're all healthy and we're all kind and we're all breathing fresh air and we're all obeying the Lord's Prayer and we're all obeying the Gospels, all that would be shot to hell, and it would put all balance and harmony at risk for us to have the life of sacrifice on planet Earth through the laws given to us by the gift of the origin of all things, the grace of creation. And so, I usually, when you see something that cute, so cute, you can't, as a man, you can't sell out to your desires or your addictions. You have to remain constant. They're too cute. You know how Earl is about little girls and daughters and Pliam and Buggy and my Malaki Pama, And I understand the dynamic of mine and Natalie's eternal relationship. And, we were made to feel perverse because of the manipulation of perverts that are jealous of us. And in no way, shape, or form are we, Younger than springtime. Are you older than Dort? Am I? And that's because they would kill us at separate times to keep us separated, to make us miserable, because when we were through the Iberian Peninsula and then going to from the being attracted together through tribalism and stuff during in the Iberian Peninsula with the migration of the people calling themselves Muslims, mass murdering and tribalism, and the people and so us always being that couple of the beacon of hope that would get together and have children and carry on our wayward son. So in that regard, and you can feel it through the kindness and the strength and the love of, Amy's kids don't get that way by accident, by spirit. They're sweethearts. Even if one of the leg lifters at the bar is trying to outfuck me, they know in spirit he's the one that always, like with Jeremiah and Elijah and others in the Bible. When Jeremiah sits there and he says, and Elijah sits there and say, well, yeah, I was out doing what I needed to do, and she got seduced into the Patty Hearst group and fucked by the biggest dick is, but I'm going to raise those kids as my own, because everybody knows I'm the spirit of father, and I'm the reason why women are faithful and men are strong and courageous and kind, and so we all know this. And so the spirit of Elijah and Jeremiah and it is through the line of Earl, through Ruth's line, Granny Kramer's line. And so I proved it beyond any reasonable doubts. I don't need to prove anything to any of you physical human beings. I don't have to do what you say. You're not the boss of here, right? You handed over your say-so to voting, and the voting has been assigned to quantum computing. And it collects all the evidence of our lives to have a comparison contest, like I told Stan Rounds in his psychology department, that just not very good listeners. Christina Salazar was a good listener, and Christine, was it Hollick and Hollick? There was a lot of good, and damn it, the Lopez stuff again. Okay. Max and Emmy's mom. I don't know how comfortable we would be as friends. I'll be really excited, and I hope it's tomorrow, because what didn't happen today. Maybe, by tomorrow we'll wake up and people will be sharing the truth of the living Messiah, and we'll be living the Lord's Prayer, and that I'd be so happy for you. That would be the happiest moment in my life for you, and especially for Max and Emmy, and Lupe, and it's better than sitting around at a picnic table at a birthday party singing Jim Steinham songs, living the Lord's Prayer. I mean, you can't think of any better rest than that. That's more peaceful than all the Baby Sigh and Branson, you know what I'm saying? Because they're all being extorted, exploited, and entertained by extortion and exploitation that sexually exploits women and turns men into monsters. And then now that they've shifted things, now the women are monsters and the men are all going around, what happened to the good old days when we could sexually exploit, and it was, voted for at City Hall and at the District of Columbia there. Yeah. And it's like, yeah, fuck. Okay, so don't let a lot of this stuff with the data centers and stuff bother you. This is their last, this is like when, have you ever seen the movie that the Germans made about Hitler's last day or so of life, with the Goebbels and going and drugging their kids, and the youngest girl not wanting to do it, and mom forcing her to do it, and then dad and mom walking outside and taking a pill and shooting each other in the face, and Eva and Adolf doing the same because they didn't get all the science projects in the right place, and here came all their business partners that betrayed them because they were betraying them, and so that's basically what's going on right now. With all the information, for the best I can assess, from what I've been given information through my relative forms of communication, we don't know for sure what's going on because we're not part of the inner sanctum or circle of the manipulation with technology through the Higgs, through wormholes and space stations and things and stuff like that the assholes know is going on, but most everyday people, you don't want to know. Okay, so Jesus was, are you ready to know this? When he told me about the sexual manipulation through the virtual presence and the human trafficking and what was happening with the little girls in Mexico, and how it was affecting Amy, and how it affected Amy, and then how it affected Natalie, and the sexual abuse and the sexual grooming through the scientific community. He would tell me, are you ready for this? And I would always go, no, I can't handle this. And most people, why? Well, you could have got. No, everything went as well as it could, and I did as well as I could, and I'm still doing as well as I can. I'm the living embodiment of Lord's Prayer. I redeem the Gospels in the palace of fucking Fort Huachuca, which is, oh God, we already know how disgusting it still is, because they're still working off of the same money, still using the same technology, and still using the same manipulation of genetics. So the only way to alleviate that sin is to go and sin this sin no more, forgive debt and trespass, love one, eternal faithful peace. And they're not doing that. And they may think they're better than Philip Rothschild and David Rockefeller, but that's not true at all, because Rockefeller and Rothschild both wanted, Earl to be shown to the world and said, this is what he's all about. He's for real. This guy really burps. Job and Jonah, and are more amazing than you ever knew. And then turning Jesus into a comic book character to take away the beauty of men like Jonah and Jonah just makes us all more selfish and disgusting every day we deny the truth of the Lord's Prayer, And so, thank heaven that Earl was good enough that he could get through to David Rockefeller and Philip Rothschild, two of the most jaded people through genetics of the most selfish, aggressive, disgusting people in the history of the world. And they totally, It's not hard to. I didn't. There was no 180 on Malik on Malcolm X. He was a good man all his life. He was born to be a good man. People were shitty to him, and he would get angry like Tupac. And then when he saw that he had bad information, he would totally change. He's like what Miriam said about me. You don't have an ego, Parsons. If you're wrong, it's because other people gave you bad information, and not because you were wrong. And then once you get good information, you correct the whole situation with your humility and your love. And she was so right, and I hope she's well, and I hope she's well, and I want to see her, and I just, for once, even if it's just because I never got to, even if it's just holding her and kissing on her forehead, if that's all that would make her comfortable, I would just love to hold her in my arms. I did dance with her once, and just let her know everything's better, okay, and this is better than a blue Mercedes SL. It's the Lord's Prayer for her and her mom, and her children, and for Jackie and Peter and the kiddos, eternally. And that's the best love I can give you, and I won't settle for anything less. And no one could ever love you more than I do. And when you finally love Earl the way you should, you'll love Jesus the way you should. And that's going to be the happiest day in the spirit of the eternal Messiah. And I pray that since it wasn't today, that it's tomorrow. I really do. Thanks, Mike Vitar. That was a good conversation, buddy. I was right to like you, and you do allow me a lot of my paffric. And I see why you try to be alone and get away from all that crap and do things that make you feel helpful to protect people. Being a fireman like Eddie Chavez did. And I understand that. I wanted to be a fireman. That's. As they said, I couldn't lift the weight. I knew I could have. I just, I didn't like all the macho bullshit entailed, like the same with being in the police department. When I thought about that too, and Dad talked me out of it because of the corruption. And you experience a lot less of the corruption in the fire department because you're not there for the criminal aspects. You're there but you do get involved in the criminal aspects. And when you see something and people think they're getting away with it, it can be infuriating to the point where you want to beat a person literally to death. And so you guys just got to understand that Mike's been through a lot of shitty stuff because of Hollywood. He was trying to help his family, and when he saw how crappy it was, he wanted to get away and never go back. And that happens with a lot of people in Hollywood. And they just hate it, and they can't talk about it, because if you talk about it, does Andy Samberg know who you are? They could have you die from rectal cancer and have everybody, saying sad stories on it to trend and pay their bills and act like it was an act of God. And why does this happen? Why does God allow this to happen? The essence of our existence, the essence of our creation, the origin of all things, okay, is not tyrannical like a human being that wants to be God and replace God with their ego. Okay. So we're allowed to flourish and love one another through understanding and obeying the natural laws given to us for holy covenants. But we also have the free will to fight and be selfish and disgusting and destroy it all and forsake it all, by trying to rule hell and forsake and deny heaven to all the beautiful ones. So, so that's why I tell you guys, I do have quantum computing. Quantum computing is not God. I am not a God. Okay, I don't claim to be God. I claim to be the eternal spirit of the gracious good shepherd. If you don't like that, well, then you're just a selfish asshole who wants to build data centers to keep fucking people in the head to feel powerful, so you can manipulate people and have sexual access to people that regularly wouldn't have sex with you if they knew the truth. Like LG said, if you knew the truth, would you still want to go to war? Okay, so I'm watching the kiddos from New Mexico State play football. I thought about going out there, but it was just too hot, and I think the fall workouts are kind of close to the public, but the reporters can go. And I was like, well, I could go meet Adrian. I like Adrian. But sometimes when I talk to people, it's a little too intense to meet me. And it's a little too scary because of these assholes. But I think now you guys don't be scared and don't find it intense. Just say, oh my gosh, I mean, this is the guy like Jesus. Yeah, and he did all this work to save our children from being abused by selfish perverts with things written on paper that people accept as reality and say that money's more valuable than oxygen, water, and a faithful woman and sweet, kind, beautiful children, right? So, and that's disgusting, isn't it? Yeah. So, I just can't wait for the kiddos at all universities that play sports to be free from debt and trespass and be able to get together in a community that welcomes them and that they like, and then they can enjoy sports in a healthy manner. So we no longer hurt one another or abuse one another over things that people that are selfish and attached want, okay, but put all our needs at risk. Right, Trey Hayden? Is it Heaton? Yeah, okay. We'll see how well he does. I wasn't sure who was going to play QB for the Aggies this year or who was going to be top at the depth chart and stuff. I did know the kiddo from Incarnate Word. Yeah, I hope he does well. I hope they do well in the Mountain West. I hope UTEP does well. I just hope, tomorrow we're all living the Lord's Prayer and we all get together and say we still want to go enjoy football, but no one pays ticket prices and they feel the Agmo and they feel the Sun Bowl and we all have a good time when we cheer, and then the next year we clean up our shit and have local rivalries and local contests like districts in high school football that's based on intelligence and reason and respects traveling and the ecosystem, and we all get our Tesla buses and move our little asses, and then we get down there. You want to go down to El Paso tonight, watch the Aggies play the Miners? It'll be the first time in a long time, but yeah, I've never been to a game at the Sun Bowl. Let's go, But I probably won't be here. I'll be in the Gila, so I'll be probably going to Altamirano Field to make sure we have bleachers on the other side, so we have more room for people to enjoy the game. Put the scoreboard at the end, because I think we'd rather have more people enjoying the game and having fun and having people in their Tesla buses that come from. I don't think we'll have it. I think we just have all the local teams. Guys, we'll be playing teams in closest proximity to us. So maybe, if anybody from Texas, it would maybe be the kids from Canyon and Sol Ross, and that's it. Not anybody in the Far Eastern. They would play locally and enjoy football locally, and just do it in districts like they do in high school, where the insanity of economic competitive genocide hasn't quite fuck the kids in the head half to death with selfishness until you get to the big leagues. Yeah. Fucking assholes. And then we did the dumbest thing. Big Chief, the best. Bertram got really into the 60s. Actually, it was Benny got really into the 60s and wanted to go back in time and just not have to experience all the hell of, I always thought, they said they would say Hank Ballard and Hank Ballard and the Midnighters is Midnighters, which Midnighters, there's also a group called the Midnighters, Niters, that is a Latino group from LA, I believe. They're not Hank Ballard and the Midnighters, they're the Midnighters. But Hank Ballard and the Midnighters are the ones who sing Finger Poppin' Time, I feel so good, and that's a real good sign. Here comes Mary, here comes Sue, here comes. He had a pretty difficult life and a horrid kind of history from what I had read. But that happens a lot with those industries. It's very horrible and disgusting. Lots of people that get stuck in it and try to do nice and try to do good end up dead or shot or killed or drunk. And like I said, Clyde McPhatter died at 39 of alcohol poisoning. What I get from the Lovings that they liked, and that would make sense that they were particularly fond of, because he is from Virginia, Tommy Edwards, And I could see that. I could see them liking Tim. I can only give you country walks in springtime. I could see the Lovings listening to Tommy Edwards records and enjoying, Say it's me that you'll adore for now and evermore. That's all. That's all. There are those who I'm sure who have told you they would give you the world for a toy. All I have is these arms to enfold you, and a love time can never destroy. I'm crying here. I'm connecting to their little sweet little daughter. It reminds me of my Emily. Yeah. I was watching her and go, oh my gosh, she reminds me of my Emily. So they're so the kids. Yeah, it's so hard on the kids when there's stupidity from selfishness. And they wrap it up in skin color and sex and all this crap and all this insanity, this Telrico kid, and I see all these good families doing everything right and still slipping behind. Are all those good families standing up for the Lord's Prayer? Well, then they're not as good as they think they are. But that's okay because the gracious good shepherd is always good. They are weak and he is strong. He is the commands of perfect words of perfect faith and perfect love. And as it worked out, quantum computing has to have symbols that based off of natural laws through eternity to sustain our lives, sustain our existence for computers to exist and stuff. Another thing we got to talk about, we'll talk about more extensively in the next video, is about robots. Robots should be used, we already talked about this once, for processing human waste, processing things that make people sick, working at dumps and at waste centers and sewer systems and stuff. That's where robotics should both be utilized. Or if we need to like build vehicles and they need a sealant or a paint, not so much paint, but a sealant that's toxic to you, then you have robots paint it instead of those guys getting killed and Martha Reeves and the Val and Vidal is getting sick making those videos on it and stuff. So that's where we need robotics, is to do jobs that are essential to human beings but would kill human beings if they had to do it too much, so as far as fixing the Freon things, doing these, and so that's really cool. So in the future, that's what robotics will be used for. Robots, no, that's an extension of an ego of a manipulator who builds robots to manipulate you and to try to protect their clone and kill you so they can clone, buy your DNA, assimilate your DNA, be the sexiest, hottest, insane robot builder, killer of all. They're nuts. They don't try to figure them out. They're not as gorgeous and beautiful as the Messiah. They don't have his immune system. They don't have his DNA. They don't have the chi that runs through his body that can, do the backflip over the couch and then run away from the mug shattering across the laundry room. Maybe Michael B. Jordan will get it. Maybe. I don't know if he's that intelligent. I think he's excessive and compulsive like the whole damn professional sports scene. Dumbasses. Yeah, I dropped out. High school, I just realized now it's just not worth it. They took all the fun out of it. When they took the fun out of sports, guys, sports is for fun and for exercise. They're games. Once it no longer becomes a fun game, you go home and you love your wife and you love the kids and then you focus on that Lord's Prayer. So Tony Romo's not getting incarcerated for driving around intoxicated. Yeah, goofy panther. He went to the University of Eastern Illinois. He's a Panther. Yeah, he went to Eastern Illinois University. Silver and blue are their colors. Yeah, the Eastern Illinois Panthers. Guys, I know my football teams and I know my basketball teams. Okay. It's like Brian with Leroy Benelli. No, it's the Five Stair Steps. Sing Ooh Child. No, it's not. It's the Shylights. Ain't no Shylights. I know the Shylights. I got the Shylights greatest hits at home. You got to be the one, half of love, ooh go girl. Have you seen her? I know my Shylights, right? I know the Shylights, and I know the Five Stair Steps. And the Five Stair Steps are the ones who sing Dear Prudence and Ooh Child and and A Million to One, right? So I know my Five Stair Steps. And so he said, and Brian was telling him, no, you don't mess with Ralph. Ralph's like, Raphael's like the Encyclopedia Brown of music. I'm not, but I'm pretty good. I was pretty good. I worked at a music store and I knew my stuff. And so I was doing that, but I'm very similar, like Patrick was with Pokemon and flags, like with Sheldon. I was that way with schools. Yeah, and, where was I going to play? And so, I can tell you, yeah, that Adams State used to be the Indians and now the Grizzlies. I can tell you that CSU Pueblo used to be Southern Colorado and also named the Indians. I can tell you that I thought that the Mavericks were the Thunderbirds of Colorado Mesa, and they used to be Mesa State, but I'm not sure. I don't know about that one. But there's other ones that, I know that, I knew these schools. And I don't know why Fort Lewis changed their name from the Raiders to the Skyhawks. I don't know why. I can't explain that one. It was like, what was wrong with the Fort Lewis Raiders? But they were the Raiders before they became the Skyhawks. Yeah, Fort Lewis Raiders. What else? There's a lot of things. I know a lot of stuff about stuff. I was just interested. I like college sports, and I like playing sports, and it was healthy. When it became aggressive and violent and stupid and abusive, you still don't forget wanting to play somewhere and live in the mountains and meet the girl of your dreams and have kids, and then have a Adobe Adobe type log cabin thing up high in the woods and the mountains and sleigh rides and and love and big brown eyes at dawn and little kiddos and then coming back home to see grandpa and yeah, maybe someday someone will come. I like Simply Red too. Okay guys, I love you. We'll talk later. All right, peace out.